June 17th, 2025, inside of a nondescript federal courtroom in Oakland, California, 4 top leaders of the Nuestra Familia prison gang would be sentenced to federal prison terms ranging from 120 months to 175 months following their convictions at trial for racketeering conspiracy. The focus of this video, David D.C. Cervantes, was sentenced to 120 months. James Perez, a.k.a. Conejo, was sentenced to 120 months as well. Guillermo Solorio, a.k.a. Capone, a.k.a. Caps, would be given a term of 175 months. And George Franco, a.k.a. Puppet, was also given a term of 175 months.
Have been investigating one of the most ruthless gangs in the country, Nuestra Familia, which means our family in Spanish. Founded by Mexican-American convicts in the California prison system in 1965, it consisted of just a few hundred members until the past decade, when, with its top generals confined to the maximum security wing at Pelican Bay, called the SHU, it swelled into a super gang with more than 1,000 made members and associates. It was built on the ethic of loyalty, discipline, and fear, and law enforcement was unable to penetrate its solid walls until one of the top carnales cracked.
The Nuestra Familia is considered one of the most sophisticated prison gangs in the United States.
I'm Ann Makovic at the Live News Desk. Following a huge gang bust that the FBI says took down the head of the snake of the La Nuestra Familia street gang in Northern California. Taking a live look in San Francisco right now, where federal agents just announced that they have charged 55 people, including 7 people in Northern California prisons, whom they describe as the governing body of the NF gang. They say they used a paramilitary structure to control thousands of gang members throughout 28 California counties. The crimes include racketeering, robberies, drug crimes, and murder.
These 7 individuals have, for years, led a violent and lucrative criminal organization from their prison cells. While the physical movement of this leadership was restricted by prison walls, the indictment alleges that their power and influence were not so constrained.
Among the Northern California gangs, La Nuestra Familia is accused of helping to run Norteños, San Jose Grande, El Hoyo Palmas, and of the 55 defendants caught up in the federal bust, 12 were from Santa Clara County. This was all part of a 5-year multi-agency investigation, and it's not over yet.
Gang leader has been convicted by a federal jury on charges of racketeering and others. The U.S. Attorney's Office says Guillermo Solorio, a senior member of the Nuestra Familia prison gang, was found guilty of overseeing a prolific drug trafficking operation in Fresno and for attempted murder. 3 other members of the gang were also convicted of racketeering. They're facing all of them up to life in prison.
All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Big shout out to each and every one of you who've taken the time to watch this video. I genuinely appreciate it. As you saw in the intro, we're going to be talking about David D.C. Cervantes. We're going to be talking about some cases he was involved in, and then ultimately we're going to be talking about the big Fed indictment that he was ultimately convicted and sentenced in back in June of 2025. Nuestra Familia came around in the 60s in Soledad prison. Basically, they rose up against the Mexican mafia, the Southern Mexicans who were mistreating them, and from there, it became a very violent history that the gang has developed over the years. Kind of one of the more famous incidents in 1972, Mexican mafia leader Rodolfo Cadena, I put his picture up there, called for a peace summit in prison of hopes of ending the war between the Nuestra Familia and the Mexican mafia. And that went about as well as you would think. He was stabbed repeatedly by Nuestra Familia members, throwing off a tier and again stabbed to death on the cement below. That kind of sets the tone for the next few decades. Fast forward, David D.C. Cervantes. And again, he has been around a very long time. This man is into his late 70s. That means he was born, my grandma's 85, 86, so I believe he was born in the 40s. And some, pieces of articles, you pick up more information. You can't just read from one. You got to read from more than, I would say, 4 to 5 to get bits and pieces of different information. And one of the last ones I checked was how it said David D.C. Cervantes, even as a couple of years ago, as he was going through this big federal racketeering trial, had to walk with had a wheelchair and could only stand and walk partially for very short periods of time. So he's an old man, but he is still calling all the major shots at the state level. And that's another thing we're going to have to get into. The state faction of the Nuestra Familia and the federal faction of the Nuestra Familia have had an ongoing dispute, to put it lightly. You got guys getting whacked. You've got Norteños and other Northerners that don't really know. They know who to report to, but they're getting told different things by different people. And you better make sure you make the right choice on who you're going to listen to, because if you choose to listen to the wrong individual, it could be your ass. It could 100% be your ass. First, we're going to be reading from an article, though, back in 2010 that David D.C. Cervantes was wrapped up in. Gives you an idea of the power this guy had. He was originally in Soledad prison until he got transferred to Atwater while this Fed case was going on. Then we're going to be reading the article about the conviction that him and 3 other of the generals were wrapped up in. And we're going to be talking about some other particulars about this. But this is an August 31st, 2010 article. Authorities seized 12 guns, $15,000 in cash, methamphetamine, cocaine, and marijuana. And authorities said they dealt a major blow to one of California's most notorious and dangerous prison gangs. Honestly, I call bullshit. No, you didn't deal a major blow. These guys are moving right along like nothing. This is an article from 15 years ago. And I'm sorry, but $15,000 in cash and some dope ain't doing shit on the streets or behind bars. From inside the confines of what is supposed to be a maximum security state prison, Pelican Bay, authorities say David D.C. Cervantes and 3 generals give orders to kill. Thanks in part to smuggled cell phones, sometimes by lawyers and family members, these commanders receive the orders and carry them out on the outside, or the corrections officers. Nuestra Familia not only calls the shots in prisons, but it does in the neighborhoods of California. California Attorney General Jerry Brown said. Brown announced a crackdown on the gang that is believed to order hits, run drug rings, and racketeering schemes inside several prisons. They also have dangerous connections with Norteño sects around the state. In the Central Valley, agents arrested 34 gang members, including 4 of those commanders with direct links to the Nuestra Familia. We have never been able to do this in such a magnitude to cost them to be basically disrupted. It's our intent to subsequently dismantle them, Chief Colleen Mestas from the Visalia Police Department said. And I guess, I don't know, maybe it's because I've been doing this channel almost 2 years, but when I hear all that stuff from lawyers or district attorneys or police chiefs or police captains, it's kind of just all blah. You're not doing anything. I mean, somebody's got to do something to stand up against, gangs and violence and drugs, and I get all that. But all this political talk, all this bullshit about, we put a dent in them or we're really trying to dismantle them, you're not dismantling shit. It's just the truth. The bust is part of a year-long operation that included a high-profile Salinas bust earlier this year. Brown said the gang's long arm reaches the Bay Area as well. Quote, I don't think any place is safe from this kind of criminal enterprise, he said. Authorities say inmates are able to smuggle cell phones into the prison, sometimes in body cavities and sometimes through more creative means, like baked goods brought by relatives and friends. The thing they don't say, though, is the corrections officer. And I don't want to come off like I'm making corrections officers all look bad, because they're not. They're not. The video I just did, actually, that corrections officer who shot and killed the Sorneño from San Jose, who was trying to kill the other inmate, he did a very good job. Very, very, saved that guy's life. That guy should be grateful to that CO for sure. But I don't like that they don't put that in there, because it's not just defense attorneys. It's not just loved ones. The majority of that stuff getting in there is from the corrections officer. The highest-ranking leaders in Nuestra Familia are already serving life sentences. That's our guy, Danny D.C. Cervantes. You gotta figure out how long time that guy's been down. He, back in the day, was convicted of first-degree murder. That's what ultimately got him locked up. And then his gang activities is what kept him there, okay? And this is another article about this same case in 2010, and more words from that Attorney General Jerry Brown. He speaks just a little bit more specifically about our guy, David Cervantes. According to Brown, Nuestra Familia, which means our family in Spanish, was launched at Folsom State Prison in 1968 and is one of 7 prison gangs in the state. He said Nuestra Familia controls illegal activities inside several prisons, as well as most of the Norteño gangs that operate in Central California, from Yuba City to Bakersfield, from Salinas to the Sierra foothills. Brown said the gang has been particularly active in Central Valley communities such as Visalia, where murders, assaults, and drive-by shootings have doubled in the past year, as well as in Salinas. And hell yeah, Salinas is very active. Quote, it's all about drugs, money, and taking control. The fight for control gets very vicious. He said he didn't think any place was safe from the gang's criminal enterprise, and warned that California could be racked by the same level of gang-orientated violence that has led to large numbers of murders in Mexico. Although Nuestra Familia's leaders are already in prison for murder convictions and other crimes, Brown said the arrests today have taken other high-level gang members off the streets. Brown alleged that Nuestra Familia is headed, this is what Attorney General Jerry Brown said at the time, is headed by David D.C. Cervantes, who was serving at the time a life sentence at Pelican Bay for a murder conviction. He alleged that Cervantes' 3 generals at Pelican Bay at the time were Matt Mateo Rocha, Sean Bubbles Cameron, and a guy we've talked about quite often on this channel, and you probably heard a lot about, Anthony Chuco Guillen. Okay, fast forward a little bit. Lot bit, 15 years. This is the sentencing hearing for the Fed racketeering case in June of 2025. Sentencings conclude the Northern District of California's successful prosecution of 40 members and associates of the violent prison gang, and this was in Oakland. 4 top leaders of the Nuestra Familia prison gang were sentenced today to federal prison terms ranging from 120 to 175 months. Our guy David, he's got 120, along with James Canajo Perez. He also got 120. Guillermo Solario, a.k.a. Capone, a.k.a. Caps, got 175. This is months. And George Franco, a.k.a. Puppet, was also given 175 months. And I believe, what is that, a little over 15 years? Oh, God, I probably did the math wrong on that. 120 is 10 years. You add 55 to that. That's just short of 15 years those other 2 are doing. The sentences follow a 3-month trial in 2024, which established that the 4 defendants, Cervantes, who was 76, so he's 76 years old as of, a couple months ago. Perez, 70, Solario, 45, and Franco, 59. So these guys are older, man. These guys are the well-established leaders of the Nuestra Familia. And I know there's other leaders at the federal faction and at the, there's different leaders in different areas. But when the feds come in and you got a 76-year-old David D.C. Cervantes, I'm going to get comments and say, man, ain't nobody listen to them. But it's like, yes, people do listen to these guys. They're not just getting tried for no reason. We're senior members of the NF prison gang serving on the general counsel, the primary decision-making for banking body for the gang. According to court documents and evidence presented at trial, all 4 defendants held a leadership role in a lucrative and violent criminal enterprise that engaged in murder conspiracies, attempted murder, drug distribution, and money laundering. Cervantes was one of the 3 generals who sat atop the NF organization structure, specifically the General Advocate Office, and made final decisions on serious matters involving governance of the enterprise as the sole member of the General Advocate's Office. Cervantes oversaw membership discipline, a role that included deciding when members should be attacked or killed for violating gang rules. Imagine having that power. Imagine you are the guy that gets to play God, and all of these guys look up to you and do your bidding. That's insane. Franco was a member of the NF's Inner Council and was regimental commander of San Joaquin County. As a member of the Inner Council, Franco was an advisor to the 3 NF generals, 2 of whom were Cervantes and Perez, and was part of the General Council that, in addition to member discipline, made other significant decisions in conducting the affairs of the NF. Perez was another general of the prison gang, specifically the General of Prisons. In this role, Perez was responsible for maintaining authority over all NF regiments and NF criminal activity within the California prison system. Guillermo Solario, was likewise part of the NF Inner Council and was an advisor to the NF generals. Solario also was the regimental commander over the Monterey County Street Regiment. I put up that little news clip that they put up of him. Didn't put his picture up. There are some other channels, we'll get into that have good pictures of them. I'm not going to steal their pictures that they have of these guys. I could not find, outside of DC Cervantes, I couldn't find the other 3's mugshots, but they're up on other channels that we're able to find the pictures. I encourage you guys to go check those out. We're going to be talking about one of those channels in just a second. The sentencing of these top 4 Nuestra Familia gang leaders marks the final chapter in the successful dismantling of one of the most violent and entrenched prison gangs operating in California. This is just all that political BS they give at the end. It's like, yeah, okay, you got them. But why this stuff matters, okay? Why it really matters. It doesn't matter because of what all the politicians and all the police and all that. What matters is, okay, DC Cervantes, some of these guys are at the state level. They are basically put on notice in a way that the federal faction of the NF has told numerous people, we are actually in charge. Do not listen to these guys. Do not listen to David Cervantes. Do not listen to Guillermo Solario. Do not listen to Perez. Don't listen to any of them, right? Don't listen to, James Perez, Guillermo Solario, David Cervantes, George Franco. They've been told, don't listen to these guys. So what you've got is these leaders of the NF at the state level kind of in limbo, right? So I put up that picture that he filed. David Cervantes filed an appeal in 2023. I didn't really care about so much the appeal that he filed, but if I scrolled down and I read, basically, he was transferred from state prison Solano, where he was serving at the time, right? He went to Pelican Bay, then he went to Solano. He was serving his sentence for first-degree murder. to the United States Federal Penitentiary in Atwater, where he was being held pending trial. Okay. Now, I don't know where he went after the conviction, after he was sentenced just a few months ago. I think he's probably still in Atwater, but it's kind of known that if David D.C. Cervantes hits a federal penitentiary, he could be whacked. He could be hit. He could be taken out. That is just something that's kind of been out there that I read about, that I heard about, and it very well could be true. And you got to think about it, right? You got a guy who's 76 years old, has been the unquestioned leader at the state level for decades, but now he's 76 years old. He's wheelchair bound, can't stand for long periods at a time. Just kind of goes to show you, man, no matter what, kind of what goes around comes back around, and everything's got an end date, and there's always a price to pay. I just find it fascinating. I just find it really, really interesting. This is an example of why I love making videos like this. But anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Next time, you already know what it is. Peace.